but thanks for listening. Yeah. Greetings and salutations, everybody. SUNSfan here with syndereN for We Say Things episode 113, sponsored by esports.gg. Thank you to our friends at esports.gg for sponsoring us for this episode. You can go visit them at esports.gg, obviously, or on their Twitter at esports, which I don't know how they got that handle.
Esports, yeah.
I don't know. But anyway, their site is really cool. They write a lot of cool stuff about Dota. They work with people like Jenkins and Cap and AEY. And of course, us, because we created the one and only Arcana tier list, syndereN, which pretty much everybody agreed with all of our tiers.
Yeah.
Everybody hated
really
the stuff that
there was
we
literally
hated.
no discussion whatsoever.
Yeah, I just think we've gotten really good at being smart. We say smart things, like we said last episode.
Yeah.
So you can check out the link to that Arcana tier list. If you're watching live, it'll periodically show up. Or if you're watching on YouTube or listening, we will be putting that link in the VOD. So, of course, clicking on it will help us quite a bit. So we appreciate your help, everybody that's watching. And thank you again to esports.gg. Okay. Let's get started with the patron shout-outs, syndereN. I'll let you take first half.
Sure thing. First up, we got your friend Andrew. Semperpi. Is that Senpai? Hakuna Matata, The Guy in the Chair, Lucas Frankel, Commander Donut, I'm playing Position 5 IRL. If that's a reference to you being poor, then please don't be in the In Bruges tier and look after yourself. Bonsai Wise Guy, Chicken Pot Pie. Wife doesn't want me to cancel so she can continue to explore smut literotica until we are broke and she is bone dry. Chakar, playing against Wyvern on lane is so shitty, his second... What's happening today? His second spell should be called Sphincter Blast.
Good job.
The Megapope, don't be afraid to tell us what you want in life, TI in New Zealand. Zan Xavier, Nate Thicko01 think Hamscroat's sons his condolences. The boys had a good run. Okay, I hate that one. Next.
Is this me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Looks like he didn't take quite half. That's okay. Bacon thinks CP3 is cursed with Scott Foster. Yep, 0-13 now. Raising my hands like I've been caught by the police, then shouting bon voyage while I watch my dick turn from hard to soft. Thank you for sponsoring this episode, esports.gg. Shark TM, pro Counter-Strike 1.6 player, Novi Panda, Dop, eating Chozlik makes you happy and healthy. Cradle series is amazing. That's awesome.
Oh, look at you, Shannon.
Underscore man.
Someone.
Ben Broomhead started following the NBA because of SUNSfan, but started going for the Lakers before finding out that SUNSfan hated them. LOL. Pitch Black, With an Aftertaste, Dun Talk, Anonymous, Pianis Antetokounmpo was bailed out by Chris Middleton. Peter, cats are believed to be the only mammals who don't taste sweetness, Niebling. And Perkaduck, I actually forgot to change this one. He never sent me a message. Perkaduck loves SUNSfan, syndereN, Saturday, and Slacks. Any other S names I forgot, let me know. Okay, thank you, friends, for continuing to support this podcast. And let's just get this next section over with, syndereN, the NBA. I won't be talking about it for quite a while because the Phoenix Suns have lost. They were up 2-0. Which gives you historically about an 80% chance to win. And then we ended up losing the next 4 fucking games. I went to game 5. It was, other than game 3 that we lost by like 20 points or something, every game was really close. I can't blame the refs. The Bucks defense was good, but I feel like that we choked pretty fucking hard. Their offense was just awful. Like, you watch them for so many games. They're doing, they have a couple different things that they do, and they do it really well, and then they just stop trying to do them, and they started playing what's called ISO ball, where either Booker or Chris Paul, they just try to isolate and play one-on-one. It was fucking horrible to watch. Like, losing obviously was terrible, but knowing that they're shooting themselves in the foot by just having the worst offense just made it so much worse. But yeah, I got to go to game 5 with Nikki and my brother. So it was, even though we lost, it was an experience. I lost my voice. So it was a good thing that we didn't have a podcast,
Record right after.
and every series or every finals we've ever been to, which is only 3 in 53 plus years, we've all lost 4-2. So the curse continues.
Oh.
And yeah, it honestly, game 5 was the crushing one. Game 6, I was basically expecting to lose. So it's not like I cried or anything like that, but yeah, rough stuff.
But you do
So
need a new headset and mouse.
I don't get it.
Because you threw them at the wall in anger.
So I
You
went
didn't
on my
cry, you were just really
computer.
angry.
I went on my computer and threw my headset and mouse after watching the game on the TV.
You know, I mean,
How do you watch TV? Do you put a headset
it,
on?
it was not a good joke, I'll admit it. It's fine. I'm not going to defend
But
though.
I will say congratulations to the Bucks. It seemed like everybody turned against the Suns once they got to the finals. People really hate Chris Paul, but it's good to see on the silver lining Giannis Antetokounmpo get a championship. He is a very cuddly guy. I like him a lot. And it's a good thing for the league because you've seen all these teams or these big superstar players kind of team up on a super team and win a championship, like which Kevin Durant did. The Nets are trying to do now, but he stayed with his team, even though it's a small market. Nobody wants to live in Milwaukee. No offense to Milwaukee people or Wisconsin in general. But he stuck with them and they won. And I think that's really good for the league. So I hope more people do that stuff. Of course, same thing could be said for Booker and the Suns.
You say that's like
wasn't to
a
be.
similar story to some Dota teams that have had success where it isn't like super teams, but they have like a good tournament or two that it's like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's like not the superstar teams, but just a team of upcoming players or one experienced player and some upcomers that do really well. Then that's cool and good for the scene. Like similar, maybe.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference is the talent in the NBA. It's more like you can home grow somebody, but once
Mm-hmm.
they're established, you know what you're going to get every day. Like in Dota, it's not like
Right.
Arteezy hasn't won a major, and he's one of the best carries of all time. You
Right.
can
That's
put
true.
like you can put a bunch of superstars together in the NBA, and you kind of know what you're going to get for the most part. Like there's some growing pains and
Okay.
whatnot, but yeah. So anyway, the season's over. Pretty depressed about that. But Suns have I don't know what the fuck's going on with Chris Paul because he played like garbage, but I don't know what his future is with the Suns. But everybody, like our young core, everybody's locked up. We're going to be doing a bunch of extensions. So in terms of like the core team, it's very good for the future. Everybody's super young. So that's one good thing about it, I guess. But this felt like, again, we were up 2-0. That was pretty disastrous to lose the next 4. And it felt like almost a free path to a ring because so many people were injured, but just didn't work out. So the Suns curse continues. Okay, on to your subject, good sir.
Didn't you want to recommend something?
SUNSfan recommends Bo Burnham Inside. If anybody's seen that on Netflix, it's a comedy special, I guess you can call it. A guy named Bo Burnham, which I'd only heard of, and I'd actually watched a movie where it wasn't a comedy, and he was in it. That's all I know him from, actually. But apparently he's a comic. I watched some of his stuff after this. It was pretty good. But this is a special where during Corona, he was stuck in his house and he created like an hour and 20-minute thing. His shtick is he sings and makes songs, and they're really cool. And the fact that he did basically all of it by himself is crazy. So for people that like that kind of stuff, I would highly, highly recommend Bo Burnham Inside. Go ahead, Mr. syndereN.
Yep. All right.
I see
I will
something for
definitely check
you.
that out, Shannon. You know I watch everything,
Yep.
so I'll have a summary for you next week.
Yeah, I won't be asking.
Shannon, I got a PS5.
I
Came in the
saw that.
door
Congratulations.
20 minutes ago.
Oh.
So I'm curious about your opinion here or your perspective. So yesterday on stream, I talked it up into being this big thing that we were finally able to get one. And then some people in chat were like, yeah, they're hard to get. And others were like, no, that's piss easy. I can just go and get one right now.
Yeah,
Basically, that's what it kind of boiled down to.
I was gonna say.
Where are we now with this? Is it easy to get a PS5? Because
I,
it's taken a long time for us to get one.
so I haven't really paid too much attention. I know it was hard at first. I figured by now, I just assume I can go to the store right now and pick it up, but I can't
Right.
100% say for sure.
Okay. Because I remember like when it got announced, they were impossible to get your hands on, right? And then
Yeah.
there's like been months with scalpers, but
Hmm.
this one we actually just genuinely got without like paying overprice, as far as I'm concerned, at least. So that's cool. Yeah,
What
I was
games it come
curious
with?
what the state of that was. I think it only comes with the tech demo, I believe. We bought Demon Souls yesterday.
Mm.
And yeah, we'll see. I don't know, maybe if I'll make like a segment or like give reviews or talk about games that I've played or whatever. But we're gonna
Yeah,
play
by all
some stuff on
means.
it. So that's cool. Yeah, I was just curious if like what the state was, because I remember we talked about this many episodes ago that these were really hard to get your hands on. But so I'm assuming you don't have one, but you could get one if you wanted to, is what you're saying.
I think so. I mean, we have a
Okay.
PS4. We barely use it. I
Right.
use it more to watch Plex, like 4K movies on Plex,
Mhm.
because it's more powerful than the TV. Uh, but if I were to get a new generation console, it would be the PS5 because the Xbox games you can play on the PC. So,
Yep,
or supposedly you can.
that is true.
Yeah, I expect future updates about the games that you're playing. I don't even know what other than Demon. Did you say Demon Slayer or Demon Souls?
Demon Souls.
Okay, don't know that either game. I just made both
Do you
up,
know?
and
Have you heard of Dark Souls?
yes,
Okay, Demon Souls is the first game from before Dark Souls 1 in like the chronology of when the games came out. It was kind of a pre-Dark Souls 1.
I see.
So
Okay.
it's a relaunch,
Hmm.
a re-release
Okay, while we're
of the first
doing
game.
recommendations,
Mm-hmm.
I actually have. I don't know why I didn't put this down. This is gonna be a really long episode. I highly recommend. I know this is very old. By that I mean like a year or two. I finally played it because Jenkins and AUI were playing at ESL. Hades is one of the best games I've ever played
I
by
still
by
need to play
far.
that game. I really
Yeah, I
do.
was surprised you hadn't played it because you usually play this kind of stuff, and I never do. I'm a monogamous gamer. I play one game. If I play a second game, it'll be like an FPS. But
Mhm.
this Hades is god tier. What a game! Highly, highly recommend for people who have not tried it out yet. It's extremely well made. Late to the party, but
Does it have one of
still
the best
recommend it.
reviews ever on Steam or something? I'm actually curious. I'm just gonna look it
Yes,
up in the
it
store. It's
was.
got to be insane. It's got
What it,
so much positive press
when
and
it
like no
shows
negative.
overwhelmingly positive, then you know it's
Let
probably
me see.
pretty good. So or rigged,
Okay, I'm just checking it now.
but
98% of the 140,335 user reviews are positive,
yeah,
and 97% in the last 30 days. That is about as high as it ever gets on Steam.
yeah.
That's crazy high.
But it's pretty cool because Aghanim's Labyrinth was kind of like it's like a tavern crawl or a roguelike, whatever
Mhm.
the hell they call it. Every time you do it, it's a little bit different, but you can buff up your guy over time, which is different than Aghanim's Labyrinth, I believe. No, actually, Aghanim's Labyrinth did have some of that, I guess, but it's
Yeah, you
much
had
more in
like a
depth.
leveling system.
But like the mythology with Greek mythology, I've always been interested in that, so that's super cool. The fact that you have so much replayability. Like I've beaten it 8 to 9 times fully through, and the story is like it's quote unquote ended, but it continues on. Like you can just keep playing it over and over, right? So
Hmm.
it's one of the best games I've ever played, easily.
It's from the makers of Bastion, by the way, which is another game that had. Let me see how well that one performed.
Another
These
game
guys
I
just know
never
how to make
played.
good games, apparently.
Yeah, I've seen people play it, but didn't look like a game I would like, and I don't know if that's even true anymore. So
Bastion is 95% positive all time. Um, that was a great game, by the way. If you like Hades, you might like Bastion. It's like similar
mm,
in like logic, I guess, or in genre. I think is the best way to say it.
mhm.
So yeah, I've played Bastion and not Hades, and vice versa for you. So maybe we should play each other's game.
That's right, and we can play Valorant at some point as well. Always fun to play
Mm.
Valorant with you, syndereN. Okay, let's get started with the episode. Again, in terms of Dota stuff, it's not a ton to talk about, but in terms of actual topics, there is a lot. But it won't be too much time for each one, I don't think. So first things first, back to the lag compensation from Mr. Jeff Hill at Valve. As of about a week ago, it was right after the podcast, they enabled the new lag compensation feature on servers globally with a window size of 67 milliseconds. So again, this is for, let's see, it says we'll have less variable input latency overall when turning, attacking, and casting.
The
So,
people on high ping, this matters for them individually.
yes. Have you noticed any difference on your side?
No,
Same.
I wouldn't notice it for myself because I haven't tried playing on a different server than EU, and my ping is too low to benefit, I think.
Hmm.
Um, but I also haven't noticed other people in the game animating faster or something. Um, so, yeah, literally haven't noticed anything. Which I guess is a good thing. If it's working, then that's good.
There was a couple threads on Reddit complaining about it. So there's definitely some people that really dislike it,
Mhm.
which, could be a
It's still in its
minority
testing stage,
or
right? We'll see
yeah,
how it.
but you could argue that if it's in a testing stage, should it be released to everybody at the same time like this, right?
That's true.
It's almost like a global beta. So I
Hmm.
don't know what to think. It sounds cool in theory. I have yet to actually see it. Again, the only time I actually noticed anything was when I was watching Brack's stream because I don't know why his ping is so bad, but it didn't look that bad. But he was complaining a bit at the time. I don't
Right.
know if his opinion has changed. So kind of that's it. That's literally the story. So, okay.
Yep.
On to the next mini topic, syndereN. Viking have disbanded their roster, or I should say they've dropped their roster. We don't know if the players are
Right.
going to play together or not, but they have dropped them from the organization entirely. Probably not too surprising, I would guess, coming from your perspective. I'm not surprised because they definitely underperformed. They were kind of like these up and coming tier 2 players a year and a half to 2 years ago, and they steadily
Mm.
made their way up to tier 1. And then suddenly when they got, the DPC league started, they just underperformed. That plain and simple. Then they got Kezu after dropping to Division 2 and they just lost out essentially in the TI quals. So,
Yeah, the qualifiers were rough because they were one of the dark horses basically that could have gone the whole way or at least got like top three or to the finals, and they just lost every game except one. They went
mhm.
1-2, and then they went 0-2, and then they were out because it's double elim. There's no groups or anything. So yeah, that's a shame. Usually around this time of the year, or a little bit later, teams get dropped because most team contracts run with TI as the final goal. So I don't know what the specifics of their contract were. If it is when the fate for TI is decided, the contract gets renegotiated. Like if you fail to qualify, or if yeah, basically if you fail to qualify or if you succeed to qualify. And I'm assuming it's something to that nature. And for Viking, it might not be a financially viable investment to keep paying for the team over the next many months with the return on investment they can make. Now, at this time, there weren't some tournaments announced, which we're getting to in a second. So maybe that would have changed their decision, perhaps. But yeah, I don't know if the team's going to continue playing together. I would imagine at least some of them will. Because I still do think they have the potential. But yeah, that qualifier showing was unfortunately really bad.
Yeah.
That's how it goes sometimes.
So that
Can't
means for
win
all intents and purposes,
every time.
Boom, Shad, Kezu, Aramis, Celery, and the coach Immortal Faith are now free agents. So good
Yep.
luck to them. We wish them well. Next, as of this tweet was on July 21st. It was actually yesterday.
Yesterday.
Uh,
Hmm.
it was tweeted out that the Esports Summit in Bucharest for 2021, by the end of the year, sports law will be modified in Romania. So teams/orgs will be able to officially register as sport clubs, and esports players will be recognized as athletes. I don't know what this actually means, but I'm sure there's like some logistical stuff that adds on to it, like what the
Yes.
actual benefits, which I don't know because it's Bucharest, but I don't know if this even helps TI necessarily. If it does, that's great because like a lot of countries, I know for the US, I've been to Romania before. You don't need a visa. I'm not sure how it is for other countries. They're part of the EU? Question mark.
Yes, I believe so. Let me
So
just
that should
check.
make it easier for a lot of people to
I
visit
think
in
Romania's in
general.
the EU. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so officially
EU member
recognized
country
as a
since
sport.
January 1st, 2007, Shannon. 14 years ago now.
That's great to hear.
Yep, you're welcome.
So that apparently is happening by the end of the year. So I actually don't know if it's going to affect TI necessarily, but good to see that countries are starting
Probably
to
not.
recognize esports as an actual thing. This is kind of the reverse outlook to Sweden. who
Yeah.
ironically have been like the esports hub for God knows how many years, I feel like, especially just in Europe. So I don't know what the hell's going on with them,
I
but
still think that to me is still so surprising. I actually
yeah.
think they would be like the last country to do what they did. That's what I would have thought. Like literally the last country in the world to do what they did. So that was honestly baffling. As far as this goes, I think the whole thing with being recognized as athletes, like you said, for visa purposes, primarily, it makes certain things easier. For us, you and me, it's not too complicated because of the visas we have or the passports we have. But I think if you're coming from other areas of the world, it can be really helpful in obtaining specific things. And also, in terms of like professional contracts, I don't. I'm not going to pretend I know everything that this could encompass, but if you can officially register as a sport club, it might influence the way that you can get funding and the legal ways in which players can be hired under contract or something like that. So
Mhm.
either way, recognition is good. So it's good news for Romanian esports as a whole, not just Dota.
Indeed. And it feels like it's just a domino effect where other countries are just going to end up following suit
Hopefully.
at some point.
Yeah.
It's only a matter of time. Okay, next topic. Let's talk about a few tournaments that have been announced.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we talked about TI being postponed a few months. That leaves a lot of extra space that nothing's happening, which we could also talk about this. Like the patch that we were expecting right after, I guess, the major or even ESL1 summer. Maybe they're delaying it just because TI has been delayed. I could actually see that because they don't want to do anything major, but they want to spice things up for TI. And if you come out with something now, that's 3 months to solve it essentially. But in terms of tournaments, ESL, speaking of them, they have announced a $400,000 ESL1 fall. So that's going to be from August 21st to 29th. So end of August, essentially. The fact that it's ESL1 fall in August. Very weird, but
Yeah,
obviously I would assume that they had to push things back or ahead of schedule
this tournament
because
was
of
meant to
TI.
be in October, I think, with TI in August.
Right.
So they just swapped slots basically.
Whoever goes to ESL1 fall, I hope the air conditioning is fixed because that was a miserable experience for that particular thing.
Has it been
Uh,
announced in what condition? Like, okay, that's the wrong word.
what
In
condition?
what's the word I'm looking for? What the hell? Whether it's LAN or not for the players.
I. It has not. I would be beyond shocked if it was. I assume that it's going to be similar, if not exactly the same, to ESL1 Summer.
So you're saying talent in person and players at home.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, the question is what teams are still in that area? Probably none in terms of like teams that aren't usually there. I would assume most teams went back because of the long delay to TI, but maybe Quincy Crew's still there.
Yeah,
I have no clue, actually.
you would imagine. So it's probably primarily an EU tournament.
Yeah. So that's ESL1 Fall 2021. The next tournament is Dota Pit. They are running China Season 5 of Dota Pit. And that's going to be August 7th. And they have actually announced the teams. It'll be Elephant. Is it, what does SAG stand for? Is that the Arrow Gaming?
A sparkling arrow gaming,
Sparkling. That's it. Vici,
or is it
Invictus,
sparking? One or the other.
Aster, Ares, LGD, and is that RNG? I'm just looking at the logos here.
Yes. Yeah.
So we're gonna get, I assume the ESL1 is gonna be EU/CIS. So we got that covered. We have China now. And then the third tournament that has been pseudo announced, I guess, from BTS is the Pro Series, which is SEA. And that, okay, I don't even have Liquipedia open. There's a lot of teams invited to this one.
And can I
Uh,
just say something? Sorry. I
yes.
just had a realization, and I think a lot of people are going to call me an idiot for this, but until just now, I haven't realized what RNG's logo is.
Let me see. It's an, wait, give me a minute to think about this. I don't know what it is. It looks like an R. Is there supposed to be
Yes.
an N in there?
It's an R made up of the numbers 1 and 2 because it's random number generator. Right? There's a 1 and then there's a diagonal 2. And because of that, it makes an R out of 2 numbers.
I
That's
see the
actually
1
a
and the
really
2.
cool logo. It's
But
a really cool logo, and I didn't realize until now. I've always just seen it as like some sort of, okay, that's an R that's just
how
made
does
like
that
a little.
signify random number generator, though? Just because it's a 1 and a
Well,
2.
their team name is RNG, right? As in,
Yes.
I'm assuming that stands for RNG, right?
No,
So
it
their
does not.
logo
No,
is,
it's Royal Never something. Royal.
and it has no reference to the numbers ever. Like, this is a 1 and a 2. You see it, right? Like, there's no way that isn't a part of this design now that I see it.
Royal Never Give Up. Thank you, Chet.
Yes, but
But
were they
their
always
initials are
called Royal
RNG.
Never Give Up, or were they called just RNG at one point when they had this logo originally?
I
And
don't
then it
know.
became Royal Never Give Up.
I mean, you're right. Now that I'm looking at it, it does look like a 1 and 2, but still,
Yeah,
I
there's
don't
a 1 and a
see.
2. There's like no way, right? It's
Like, if there
definitely
was
the
going to be
design.
something that you want to design around aren't like random number generator, it would be like a die, not a 1 and a
Right, but
2.
they also wanted it to be an R, right? I don't know. I think it's a really cool design for what I just said with
What if
it
that's not
being.
even. I'm actually interested to know
It's
if this
just
is even a thing. Is that even a thing? It's probably
like there's
not.
no way that it's not a 1 and a 2, right? Like, tell me. There's literally no way.
I mean, if
That
you
would be like the
angle it,
weirdest coincidence ever. Your org is literally called RNG. And sure, it can stand for Royal Never Give Up. And maybe at one point, I don't know if it stood for RNG actually, but you don't make your logo out of these 2 numbers by coincidence.
you never know. You
No
never
way.
know. Anyway, back to
No
the
way.
topic
I
at
think it's
hand.
cool. Okay. Yes.
The
Let's go
Pro
back.
Series SEA edition. So Fnatic, Motivate.trust. Whatever happened to Myth Trust? Remember them?
Yeah, that was Myth stood for Made in Thailand, right? I don't know why they
I don't remember.
renamed or changed it or
Team
whatever, but the
SMG,
sponsor is still the same.
T1, OB.Neon, Execration, 496 Gaming, Galaxy Racer, Lil Gun, and Army Geniuses. That is a strange name, let me tell
Okay,
you.
what kind of a fucking team name is Lil Gun?
That's better than Army Genius.
Dude, I don't know. Maybe they're like all retired war veterans and they're really good at Dota.
uh,
I do
Army
kind of like though
Geniuses.
when Lil Gun go up against Army Geniuses. I do hope it's just like all mid sniper. You know, like it's literally they should all be playing Call of Duty instead. They picked the wrong game.
So we have, what are the regions that are left out right now? Is it just NA that's missing?
Yes,
Chat
a
was telling me
shocker.
that Envy leaked the fact that there's going to be a BTS Pro Series for NA as well.
I see.
Liquipedia also has an entry for that, but there's nothing in there. So, yeah, with
Okay,
that, that's basically every region, right?
TBD
Yeah. Wait, South America. We
or
forgot about them.
TBA.
Although I guess that's probably NASA
I think
combined.
they will be part of the same tournament.
Yeah.
I think when
Okay.
BTS run their Pro Series, they run it for both NA and SA every time. I think it's not one of them. It's both.
All right. Do you have any comments on these 3 tournaments that have been announced, syndereN, before we move on to non-Dota 2 related stuff?
Well, under the assumption that the ESL one is EU only, that's clearly the biggest, but that could also technically be multiple divisions, right? They haven't announced yet because ESL has run tournaments in the past where there were 3 regions playing at the same time. I don't think that's going to be the case for this, but I'm not going to rule it out. But if it's just Europe, then that's clearly the biggest one in terms of prize pool because this one was a 400k, and the Chinese one was 150, and the SEA one was 50. So in terms of like overall prize pool, that's it. Quality of teams in all 3 of them are really good though. So I think it's going to be great tournaments no matter what they're playing for. And it's good for Dota that there's a lot of content for the different regions during what would have been a 3-month drought, right? So that's big up to the organizers for running this stuff. That's
Let's
very
hope
nice.
there's a patch though.
Yes,
I'm pretty
please.
tired of this patch. I'm not gonna lie, syndereN.
I'm
I'm at my
not
wit's
that
end.
tired of it, but I would like a few changes. But I think this is one of the best patches we've had in a long
It was
time
good
now.
while it lasted. Time to change it up
Yeah.
again. Let's get shards
Yeah, but not
2.0.
too much. Not too much,
Let's
please.
get
Just,
reverse shards, and when you combine it with an actual shard,
yes.
it makes it like double effective. Okay?
Okay.
Come to me for ideas. Oh, by the way,
Yeah.
okay, completely random topic here. I was actually thinking about Legion Commander rework, okay?
Okay.
I want to just ask you what you think about this. Let's forget about Ags and
Okay. I
Shard and
don't
all that
like it.
shit. Okay. Now let's see if your opinion changes when I actually tell you the idea. So remember, the reason I don't like this hero, there's two reasons. Number one,
Mm-hmm.
it's clunky. Okay. Number
Okay.
two, it's not really designed around the ult. Everything is press the attack.
Mm-hmm.
You're literally picking this hero to be Abaddon, right? The hard dispel.
So when people pick this to counterpick anti-mage, it's because of press the attack.
I'm good
Good.
lord.
Okay.
All right, who
Mm-hmm.
picks anti-mage? Seriously, we saw like one game at the major. One game. Yeah, I'm not saying this is black and white. I'm saying 95% of the time you pick Legion commanders because press the attack, hard dispels. Would you disagree with this?
Yes. Yes.
You would disagree. God, I hate
It's
you.
97% of the time.
97. Okay, so here's the rework to make her fun again. Okay, you have to obviously. So now I will mention the clunkiness comes from press the attack as well. It's actually working both ways because you have to like double tap it yourself if you want to actually go for that kind of build. So
Right.
how about we change it for press the attack to be an instant active? It means you only can use it on yourself, which obviously means hard dispel isn't a thing. It's only a soft dispel or
Yeah.
basic dispel in that case. And then the ult breaks. That's a starting point for a redesign, a rework of the hero to make it more ult centric, more of a, it doesn't have to be a carry necessarily, but it does damage. It's an initiator that can do damage. It's not about healing your stupid teammates. What are your thoughts?
Sounds like a really strong hero counter to specific things, right?
Yes, it does.
You just duel and they're broken during duel, and there's no way of solving that with itemization because, well, you can Lincolns, you can like avoid getting dueled, I guess.
And
That's
then
it.
when you get Ags, you bring
Mm-hmm.
back the double BKB. Okay? Both heroes are BKB'd. So you can't get saved anymore. When you play Legion
I see.
Commander and they pick Shadow Demon, they pick Bane, like it's the worst. Okay? And then you balance the numbers, you lower them, you nerf it to make it actually balanced.
Do you think, okay, so do you think it makes it a more interesting design
Yes.
when duel can't be countered? I think a really big part of that spell and what's interesting about it is that it can be countered. So when you have BKB, it's just literally
So
Lincolns.
when
That's it.
Shadow Demon gets the reverse shard, which will be added in the next patch, that allows
Oh.
disruption to go through BKB. So that's the counter.
Oh,
You
okay.
see?
So we're just like we're specifically designing the entire game around Legion Commander now.
Again,
That sounds fine.
I
I'm cool with
just
that.
want her
That's
to be
good.
fun again. She's not fun to watch or play unless it's like a more damage build.
What the fuck is a reverse shard?
I don't know. I made that one up. Reverse shard is going to be a thing, okay?
Why is it called reverse? How did
Because
you even
it
come
needs to
up with
be
that?
a mirror image of the shard in order for it to connect on itself, you see? And then the agonyms gets attached to that. So really the shard right now, you don't
So,
know it, but it's not actually connected just to the ags. It's connected to its reverse
uh-huh.
shard as well.
So can you buy a reverse shard without having shard, or is it like you have to have shard
No, you
first?
have to get shard first.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. All right, next
I think it's
topic.
good that we have Ice Frog on this.
So I'm just saying that's how you make the hero fun. I don't know if I'm the only
Sure.
one. The hero's not fun. You pick him to hard dispel. That's boring as fuck. I hate that shit.
I could definitely get behind a potential rework, but I don't know if that's. I agree
That's
that what
fine.
would be nice was if duel mattered more and press mattered less, but I don't know if I
Yes.
would go that route.
Okay, that's fine.
The break isn't necessarily a bad idea though.
Thank you. I know I'm very smart. You know, I have
But
created a few
the
heroes
Ags
in
where
my
both
time.
heroes get BKB is just.
It's too strong. I agree. The current Ags is garbage, by the way. Literal not buy. Okay. Next thing on the list, I have a lot to say about this. Steam Deck
Mhm.
has been announced by Valve, a new hardware
Yes.
that is essentially a handheld PC. We talked about this before. We thought it was going to be called Steam Pal, which disappoints me to no end because that sounds way better than Steam Deck because our former sponsor, Elgato, has a product that was actually re-announced on the same day as Steam Deck is called Stream Deck. And I have one on my desk right now, and it's very good. I don't know if that helped them or not, that they announced on the same day, but that is
Everyone
hilarious.
typoed when they were searching for Steam Deck, and Elgato sales went up 50%.
Yes. So Steam Deck, there's a lot to talk about. I'm sure
Yeah,
you guys can just Google photos and whatnot. Obviously, it's literally a PC. So obviously, it'll come with like the Steam interface that you're used to seeing. Of course, it's going to be more like the big picture type style, but you can do whatever you want with it. There's no real restrictions at all. And in terms of the hardware, which is the thing I'm going to talk about a bit. Actually, let's start with the price points. So the cheapest one is $399, 64 gigabytes of memory. By memory, I mean internal storage, like
yeah.
to put games on. That's nothing. A lot of games are more than that.
What does the Switch have? I think it also has
I
64
Well,
internal.
the Switch has hard. Uh, they have cartridges as well, right? It's not just onboard storage. I believe. I'm not a big Switch
Right, and
person
there's
myself.
nothing you can do to the Steam Deck to give it additional storage.
Yes, you can. I'm getting to that, syndereN.
Right,
There's
so then that's the same. That's just my point, right? Like if the default cheap version is the same, then you can buy quote unquote add-ons to both.
right. So $399 for the cheapest one, 64 gigs. If you want 256 gigs, it's $529, but the internal storage turns into an NVMe drive, which is a lot faster. So I think for most people that should be the baseline, honestly. So 530. And then the next one, which is half a terabyte, so from 256 to 512, is $650. So let's just do this piece by piece. Thoughts on the price
Okay.
points right now? Because the Switch is less than $400, I believe, right?
It's about the same, I
I'm
think.
going to look it up right
I
now.
mean, I just Googled the price for a Switch right now in Denmark anyway. But I mean, maybe the store offers. It looks like the norm here is that it's 2,500 Danish, which translates to $396. So I think from a Denmark perspective, at least, this is basically one to one
Okay, I'm seeing
with the
Nintendo
cheapest
Switch
deck.
for $299 right now on Amazon. So it's a full
299.
$100 less than the
Okay, that's a
Steam
lot cheaper there.
Deck.
Right. Okay. Um.
But in
Yeah.
theory, you can do
So
a lot more with it, although you can't play like Nintendo games. Well, I guess
I
you
think there's a little
technically
bit
could.
more. Before you talk about price points, I think you should cover a little bit more because like this is a lot heavier. I think it's almost twice as heavy as the Switch, if I remember correctly. And it has a lot more power. Basically, it's got stronger components than the Switch. So
Hmm.
having it at a higher price point with that logic, it makes sense, right? It's a more powerful machine. It weighs more for that reason, largely at least. Then the question is it actually, when you consider that, is it actually cheap compared to the Switch because of those reasons with what it can do, or
Hmm.
does it make sense? We'll see. But a lot of the concerns that people have with this is actually about the weight more than the specs or anything. Because obviously it can run a lot of games, which is great, but people are worried that you get fatigue from playing with it. Like maneuvering it, holding it, and just using it in general, that it's going to be clunky and eventually exhausting. That's just concerns that I've read about. I don't know how true they are, but obviously that is the trade-off that you get when you want to make a handheld console really powerful. You need components that can run shit, and usually that requires bigger components. So
Yeah.
the Switch is more compact, and I can tell from personal experience that that's really nice to use. I haven't tried the deck, so I don't know if it can like hold up to
The
that.
deck.
But obviously, a really big selling point of a handheld console is that it's comfortable. That's the primary reason you get it over a laptop or a different PC or a different like a stationary console is that it's nice that you can just take it with you and play. So I think you really can't sacrifice comfort on a handheld. If this isn't, if this is exhausting to use, people won't buy it. I think so. That's my number one concern. Everything else sounds amazing, to be
Okay.
honest.
I have some gripes.
Okay.
Well, first, let's talk a bit more about the hardware inside. It's an AMD
Hmm.
processor. Everything seems to be reasonably powered so that you can run most games decently well. The
Yeah.
resolution's 1280 by 800, so it's a 16 by 10 ratio. It's a
Hmm.
7-inch screen, 60 hertz, which that's the thing I'm going to harp on a bit here. And what else? The battery life, according to it's a wide range, but between 2 to 8 hour battery life. That sounds
Yeah.
pretty abysmal. Like like if you're on a flight, like we take flights all the time that are like long ass international flights. Some flights are literally longer than that. I'm not saying that that matters necessarily because you could just charge it, but 2 to 8 hours
Mhm.
is very low compared to the equivalence, if you want to call it that. Um,
Especially that the lower bound is 8. That means that if it's not even running a game, but just on, it
yeah,
runs out after 8 hours, right?
that's right. I assume
That, wow.
that's you doing nothing with
That,
it. I don't know.
yeah.
So a couple concerns I have. I think the price point's fine for the most part. Um, I think the biggest thing that people aren't talking about is Valve's history with this stuff, with their hardware. They had, what was the original Steam PC called? I can't remember what it's called, but it never actually came out after they announced it. And
I think
then
it was called Steam PC,
they
wasn't it?
made the Steam controller, which I actually kind of liked. They never updated it really. They never went anywhere with it. Steam Link, which I still use to this day, is actually an amazing was a piece of hardware. Now it's just software. They have yet to update that, which I'll get to that in a second as well because that connects with this. And then their VR, which was horribly overpriced, and who knows if they're going to do. Basically, what I'm saying is they've abandoned a lot of projects. So you're
Mhm.
investing a good chunk of money to get something like this that you don't know if they're ever going to come out with anything else or they're going to, you know, take care of their
Mhm.
customers, so to speak. That's concern number one. Concern number two, and I got a lot of people that uh, talk shit to me about the 60 hertz thing because I complained a lot about the fact that it's 60 hertz.
Mhm.
I find 60 hertz unplayable. And people are tweeting back at me saying, we're not playing FPS games on this. Well, first of all, you could. But
Yeah.
secondly, I play Hades on 120 hertz and I play it on 60 hertz. It's very noticeable. I literally can't beat the game sometimes because of the hertz. It's very
Mhm.
noticeable. And the fact that it's 1280 res, I feel like that is not difficult to make something that works for that. Now, the thing I will agree with is most people don't give a shit about that because most people are dumb. No offense to everybody out there. Like most people that are going to be buying a handheld thing anyway aren't going to give a shit about 120 hertz. But if you have an upgraded version that perhaps upgrades the screen to allow that, that's something I would seriously consider buying. And I can only rate this based on what I would want to buy and not
Right.
what I don't give a shit about other people. Like when I'm doing a rating,
Damn.
it's not like a PC gamer rating where I'm saying this is something you should buy if I'm saying how I would rate this myself. It's 60
Right.
hertz. It's literally unplayable. I would not buy this for sure. Now, the biggest concern that I have about that doesn't make any sense is that they have Steam Link, right?
Mhm.
So it's software. You can remote from this device to your PC. Now, the main issue is that right now, Steam Link, because it hasn't been updated, doesn't support 120 hertz for some reason. But I feel like that's something that could easily be added. So if you had an upgraded version of this Steam Pal or Steam Deck with a 120 hertz screen, that would be really awesome because then I can remote in on my PC and it doesn't even have to be at home. They actually updated not too long ago to where you can do it outside of the range of your Wi-Fi. That sounds
Mhm.
fucking awesome. That's something I would buy. But 60 hertz, it hurts, man. I don't know. Like, have you tried playing like even Hades? I play Hades on my TV downstairs using Steam Link, which of course it
Right.
downscales to 60 hertz. It's awful, like legit awful.
Basically going from playing 144, like in Dota, for example, right? If I play 60 FPS or 60 hertz instead of 144, it's really noticeable and distracting. Um, I don't know if we've talked about this before, but the step from 60 to 144 is infinitely bigger than the step from 144 to 240, even though numerically that step is bigger.
Yeah.
But to the degree to which it's noticeable, like if I were to go to an event or whatever, I wouldn't really care if the monitor was 144 or 240. I don't care for Dota, but I really care if it's 60 or 144. Like, holy shit. So 100% agreed on that. I don't know if there's some sort of technical limitations when the screen is this small with the hardware and everything, or if there's just no excuse apart from, just they don't think there's a big enough market
Well,
for it,
it
or they
kills
think it's going to be
battery
too expensive
life.
that people will buy it if it kills battery life, like you said, right? So
Yeah.
there might be secondary concerns here. But I would agree that if you could get a higher frame rate on a screen that especially has this kind of strong hardware behind it, I think that is value. It would be the same for me. If I were to buy this and there was a 144 version, I would get that in the blink of an eye. Even if it costs like
Well,
$100 or $200 more, I would pay for that.
120 hertz is the
So,
standard. 144 is like some gaming thing that was just created for gamers. That's just,
yeah, 120 is
I
also
wouldn't say it's
fine.
a
Like, it's
gimmick,
close.
but
So,
you can't
yeah.
tell the difference between 120 and 144 pretty much.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my biggest concern. That's why I would never buy this thing. But overall, we've talked about it before. The concept, that's cool. Handheld PCs, that sounds awesome. Who knows how it feels in your hand? The setup with like the joystick and whatnot looks a little awkward. I won't lie. The trackpad being underneath. I mean, depends on what game you're playing, I guess. There's no really way to know until you've held it, like in terms of the weight and everything. Obviously, it
Now,
doesn't come
one counter
apart like
argument I will
Switch or
say,
anything like that either.
or I don't know if I would call this a counter argument, but I think maybe console gaming in general, handheld consoles, what frame rate do other ones have? Like if you play on the Switch, I think that's also 60, maybe even less.
It's about that.
I don't know if there is a handheld console that has had 120 hertz, at least of the
I don't think
primary
so.
brands or whatever.
I don't think so.
That doesn't mean that Steam Deck needs to conform to that. I'm just saying, like the expectation of a handheld console and going in here, it's definitely not under delivering on the status quo, but we were hoping for it to be better than that because of how strong the machine is. But yeah, so it's not gonna, based on what you're used to from playing locally on your Switch or whatever, this is not going to be worse. I think that's just important to clarify, that it's not like cutting corners. It's just not overtaking them either.
Yep, that's right. But I mean, again, the cool thing about this, first of all, I hate the name. God, I hate the name so much. Steam Pal is so much better. Am I crazy? Steam Pal sounds so cute and
not
cuddly.
like a huge fan of either. It's okay.
Really, you're not a fan of Steam Pal? That's your pal that you have.
I mean, I think it's probably better than the deck.
Steam Deck sounds so impersonal. I don't know, man.
Maybe
it feels like it gets
part of the
lost
reason
in the
Valve
shuffle.
didn't do PAL is that it sounds like something smaller, right? Like a weaker machine, like a Tamagotchi, you know?
People were clamoring for it to be called the Gabe Boy, which if you say fast, does not sound very good. That would be a disaster. I'm sure they considered
there would be
it
no
at one
lawsuits
point.
over that.
I'm sure they put it on the board and then said it out loud, like, okay, never mind.
The Gabe Boy. Oh man, that's amazing.
But yeah, I don't know, man. I'll wait for Generation 2 if there ever is one. Again, that's one of the biggest concerns that I have, is that they just don't follow up on anything. But the idea is cool. I like the idea. And the biggest thing is the fact that they're going to be, and we talked about this when it was originally announced and we didn't have any details, Xbox, all their games are playable on PC. You can play Xbox Series, what the fuck is it called now? God, you guys suck at marketing. Whatever that fucking new console that Xbox made, you can play that on this. That's crazy to me. That's really cool. Of course, most of them will play like shit because, yeah. That's one thing. You can't play that stuff at like super high settings or anything, for sure. This will be much weaker. But that's why the Steam Link, the idea of the Steam Link makes this so cool in theory, but it doesn't feel like they're trying to use that technology, which boggles my mind. You could play literal AAA titles with the highest graphics streaming from your PC. Somebody in the chat was saying that you don't care. You care about 60 hertz, but you don't care about the Steam Link delay. There's no delay on Steam Link when you're in your own house. It's literally off the network. It's based on the Wi-Fi. Like, it's super fast. You don't even need internet technically. So it's super fast in terms of the latency, but the hertz is the issue still for both that and Steam Link. So that's my gripe. We'll see. I won't be buying it, so maybe we won't see. We'll see what the reviews are when it comes out, but that'll be later in the year. I believe December, if I'm not mistaken.
Something like that. That's a good time to release a console for a completely arbitrary reason.
Yeah, very arbitrary. Okay, next thing on the list. CSGO has announced the CSGO Dreams and Nightmares Workshop contest for $1 million. This is where the Artifact tournament international money went, apparently, to the CSGO workshop scene. They're looking for 10 original Dream and Nightmare themed weapon finishes for CSGO. Each of the winning 10 entries will win $100,000, which that does seem like a lot of money. I want to tell you something. I don't know if you're aware of this. I'm not going to give
Mm-hmm.
numbers. I've heard some in the past.
Right.
Counter-Strike workshop artists make so much money, you guys would not fucking believe me. There are easily double-digit, if not more, millionaires, like multi-millionaires from making workshop content on CSGO. For Dota, that's not the case, obviously.
Right.
It's cool that they're putting all this like money on the line to make. I mean, the fact that they made their own website. Is this the same company, syndereN? Valve made a literal standalone website, counterstrike.net/dreams, for this contest. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so first of all, from what I understand, I read a little bit about it. In the fine print, you get the $100,000, but you waive your workshop percentage.
Really? You
I
make
think
less
so.
then. You probably make less that way.
If that is the case, that was the interpretation that I saw and read.
Wow.
Then this is worth less to the individual creator than if they just got it in the game
Yes.
normally, quote
Yes.
unquote.
100%.
Now, there's two ways of looking at this. One is, wow, that's like, why? Why not just let them have it like every other item in the game? And the other way of looking at it is, maybe they wouldn't have done this without the contest. Then there just wouldn't have been these 10 items, right? So it's like, if this is something extra that they're only doing because of this, then, then it's still something extra.
I mean,
But while the 100 grand sounds amazing, I think getting a cool item in the game normally in CSGO pays you more than that. So unless that interpretation from the community is wrong, then this is worth less to the individual creator than just getting
I
in the
was
game
not
normally.
aware of that. If that's true, that is insane. Because you didn't have to put a number on it. Then you could just say this is a contest, which is still cool. Winners get
Right.
the usual rate, which is, I promise you, I promise you, if you got a skin into the game and it was one of 10 skins, you would make more than $100,000. I promise you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for CSGO, that is not Dota. Just to
Right.
again, Dota has gone down the shitter in terms of workshop artists making money, but this is crazy. That's true. Wow. That sounds
Yeah. I
almost
mean,
like,
take it with a grain of salt. It was what I read. I haven't read the entire terms of service on this shit, but
why
that seemed
not?
to be an interpretation that a lot of people shared on the wording, was that you do not get to keep the workshop percentage.
Wow.
So, but either way, whether you do that or not, I think this thing should come to Dota. Having workshop contents like this, we have or rather, not should come to Dota, because we already have that with like the call to arms, right? But having like how to say, actually, I don't know if it's good to have like a set amount, right? Because when Valve announces, hey, we're making a chest or whatever, they don't say how many winners there are going to be and what the terms are. So maybe actually the way it's run in Dota is honestly maybe better. So I take that back.
If
It's
anything, they
probably
include
fine.
too many people in the chest in Dota because it gets muddied down essentially, and people like a lot of sets are
Yeah.
really cool, and Valve ends up making a lot of money, but it's divided so many times that it's really not that much
Right.
anymore. So I'm not sure why Dota went down that road, but
That's a
CS:GO
good point
is
about
is
cosmetics
rolling.
in CS is how many less people you need involved, right? To make a cosmetic.
That's true. Less people involved, and CS makes more money in general, like than
Yeah.
Dota through cosmetics.
Right.
That's pretty much guaranteed because it's like the betting thing. So yeah, wow.
Some of the some of the Dota artists went to CS:GO, right?
Oh yeah. So it was actually there was a point where, because back in the day when workshop was starting, it was pretty.
Mm-hmm.
It was really good money, like not like
Yeah.
CS money, but it was really good money for, especially for somebody like me that never made any money in my life really. But I mean, all that money saved from GoDaddy, that was some good stuff.
Go Daddy.
But eventually they started like stripping away stuff that you could do, less communication with the artists in general. There's just a long laundry list of stuff. They stopped accepting particles. They wanted to basically reserve everything for TI. And
Right.
people within Valve actually talked to artists and said, you should just work on Counter-Strike. Because they know that you're not going to make a good living doing Dota stuff anymore. This was like 6 years ago. It's been a long time.
Right.
5, 6 years. I can't remember. It's been a while.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is that. Next thing on the list, Cinder, as we continue on with non-Dota stuff that just will never end, Amazon's new MMO, which is, I think people were beta testing. It's going to be out in late August. It's called New
Called
World.
New World. Yep.
It has apparently started bricking RTX 3090 cards. By bricking, it means it literally destroys the cards. And some other models have also had this issue, but obviously the most expensive one is the 3090. It's the EVGA model, which is actually the company that I exclusively use for any of my graphics cards. I do not have a 3090, by the way. I have never heard of this happening before. Something quite like this. That's crazy.
Does someone get in legal trouble for that?
I mean, the good news is EVGA has the best warranty service that I've experienced, which is why I exclusively go with them. So I'm sure they'll get replaced. But there's a big shortage on 3090s, as you know.
I'm just okay. It's important for me to specify this because I'm just a little bit worried. Like, let's say, so the MMORPG, right? There's two options. Either it's, I mean, if your card bricks because of the software, then you would say, is it the card's fault that it can brick and it doesn't just switch off when it gets overloaded like this, or is it Amazon's MMORPG's fault for not being correctly optimized so it doesn't fucking brick cards?
Right. So,
and I'm worried for Amazon because if it turns out that it's their fault and they get sued, how can they possibly pay for this?
all right, I get the joke now. Good joke.
Good.
But to answer your question seriously, I think of the three, Amazon would be the least in trouble, if you want to call it that, like the least responsible. I think Nvidia is probably the top, and then EVGA, and then way down would be the actual game. That it's really weird that was something like this could happen.
Like I'm just, oh God, I need to drink more. I'm just trying to think. So I don't know enough about this, but how does a card brick actually? Like what even happens physically in the card that makes it just break, you know?
I didn't see the specifics on what I heard some people talking about. Maybe a lot of people are blaming the main menu. Maybe there's like like they don't cap the FPS. I really don't know. Like a very intensive
that's not what
menu.
I mean. It's not what like technically in the game is causing it. It's what happens to the card.
I think
like for example, if your computer overheats, it switches off.
Yes.
So it doesn't fucking melt.
Yeah.
So what does a graphics card do? How does it brick?
Well, I think that mechanism just for whatever reason isn't there.
Right.
So I assume it just burns up.
Like if the possibility to brick is in the card, then like maybe I'm gonna come off like a complete idiot now, but I'm just thinking if you can't solve your way out of this mechanically that the card can't brick, then the liability is with the card developer and never with the software developer, correct?
Yeah.
So if this becomes a legal battle of some sort that people's cards are fucking breaking, then I would guess that the responsibility lies with EVGA and with Nvidia, right?
Yeah, it's one of the two.
Not with Amazon at all.
There's no way Amazon's at fault. I mean, they're definitely gonna, patch the game to not make the menu all fucked up. But
obviously,
yeah, this is a very strange case.
I don't know. That's surprising to me.
Yeah. Okay, so that's
that cards can't even brick anymore. Like that.
I mean, you can brick in other ways, syndereN.
No.
All right, next thing. Netflix is getting into gaming in some respect. They will be adding mobile games, apparently, to the subscription, which they are saying they will not be adding additional cost to it, but they will start doing mobile games as part of the subscription, which this may seem small, and it kind of is, because nobody gives a shit about mobile games that's watching this podcast or listening, but it also opens the door for them to do actual games. Actual games to put on their service, which goes in line with Google Stadia type stuff. I mean, Netflix already has the infrastructure, and gaming is a huge business. I definitely see them doing something at some point that competes with Google Stadia. And I could compete with Google Stadia, I'm pretty sure, at this state. But any thoughts on this? I think that's really cool.
I mean, if you think about what Netflix's service is, right? It's like a really broad subscription for literally the whole world. So if you want to connect this with gaming, you would connect it with the biggest gaming market, right?
Mm.
So I think it kind of just makes sense. Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't mobile gaming by now the biggest gaming market in the world?
Probably, yeah.
I would think it is at this point.
Well, it's
At the
smart
very least, whether
because
it's financially the biggest on the dollar, it should be the one that has the biggest reach because most
mm,
people have a mobile device that can run something, right?
yeah,
So if you're Netflix and you're aiming wide, then I think targeting mobile makes a lot of sense. Uh, Also, like from a genre perspective of how Netflix is used, it's chilling on the couch to watch your show. For most people, I would imagine it's more of a casual thing. I don't know who's a hardcore Netflixer, so it probably
I'm
makes,
hardcore.
again, like from a genre perspective, I think mobile is the right match here rather than PC games
It's
or
like the
consoles.
thing. It's
So
the
it makes
gateway
sense to me.
into gaming, right?
Right.
It's the least investment that you need because you don't need to put too much time in making a mobile game,
hmm
and it theoretically could make you a lot of money, and it gets you kind of in that door, your foot in
Did
that
they say
door.
specifically whether they're developing games or just buying them?
That's a good question.
Because I don't know if they need to develop games themselves, if they can
Well,
get like some sort of deal
I'm
with
sure
game
it's going to be
developers.
both. I would be really surprised if they don't go the Amazon route where they have their own studio, because I could
Right.
see them making AAA titles in like 10 years for games like non-mobile
hmm
as part of Netflix subscription. I think it just makes sense, honestly.
It,
So yeah,
it seems like a really good strategic move, at least. I totally get this. I think
yep,
it's a good way of
agreed.
expanding for them.
All right, next thing on the list, Cinder. ESL Monopoly board game has been, I was going to say announced. I think you can actually buy it. It looks like I can add this to my cart. When is the last time you've played Monopoly? Have you played it?
Um, it's quite a long time ago that I played Monopoly. But what I will say about Monopoly is that what's really good about this game is that it's a game that anyone can win at. It's 99 not that's not true. It's like 90% luck. So it's perfect for the bad gamer to feel like they're
Yep,
good.
that's
So
right.
ESL selling this makes a lot of sense.
I'm actually going to add it to my cart right now just to see how much money. It is $61 apparently. Obviously, Monopoly has had a billion different versions. I've never actually played one that was just not the standard. The fact that ESL is the one doing it, I think, is kind of weird, if that's the right word for it, because they're marketing like it's the official esports board game, kind of. I mean, not really. I don't know. I just find it a little weird. But the game
Does it
pieces.
does
hmm
No, I was just thinking like usually games have an IP, right? Monopoly is not owned by anyone. Or?
Monopoly is definitely owned by somebody. What do you mean? Oh,
So how did ESL get the rights to make it then?
I mean, it's technically an ESL Monopoly game, but they're calling it an esports board game, which that's the part
Isn't
I
it
guess
the
I find
official
weird.
Monopoly logo that's on top of it?
Yes.
So they
You
just
have
made
to
a
get the
partnership
rights
with
for it.
whoever owns Monopoly. So it's just like
Yes.
a okay. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Monopoly basically whores themselves out to get as many different versions out as possible
Got it, got it.
because
Yeah,
they
never
know that
mind.
people don't like Monopoly. But if it's something that you really like, if it's a subject matter that you really like, Game of Thrones before that last season, then maybe you'll buy
hmm
it. So the pieces,
Right.
there's like the little pieces that you can use in the game are controller, keyboard, headphones, looks like the ESL logo. I do not know what this one is, and then a chicken. I can't show this on screen, sadly. Is that like the
I really
trophy,
hope that
maybe?
when you go to jail in this Monopoly, it's low priority. That's a missed opportunity if they didn't do that.
That's the sad thing is
Or you get banned.
I can't zoom in enough to see what the board actually says on the each individual thing.
Jail has to be banned. Right.
Yeah, I don't know. And it says go to jail, so it I
Does it
don't.
actually?
Based on the picture, I can see that one at least. It says go to jail.
Dude,
I don't
in
know what's
esports,
different.
nobody goes to jail. People pull off scams all the fucking time and get away with it. They just disappear off the face of the earth. So go
That's
to
right.
jail should be go off social media and never get talked to again
Yeah,
for 2 rounds.
that's right. All right,
Yeah.
so that is the ESL the Esports Monopoly game. I never thought I'd say those words. All right, a couple more quick topics. We have, oh, this one is not a quick topic. Activision Blizzard has been sued by the state of California over their frat boy culture. So let me just read a couple tidbits here. Um, let's see. According to the complaint filed Tuesday in the Los Angeles Superior Court, female employees make up about 20% of the Activision workforce and are subjected to a pervasive frat boy workplace culture in which male employees drink copious amounts of alcohol as they crawl their way through various cubicles in the office and often engage in inappropriate behavior toward female employees. Uh, let's
What
see.
the
Female
fuck?
employees allege being held back from promotions because of the possibility they might become pregnant, being criticized for leaving to pick up their children from daycare, and being kicked out of lactation rooms so male colleagues could use the room for meetings. The suit also points to a female Activision employee who took her own life while on a company trip with her male supervisor. The employee had been subjected to intense sexual harassment prior to her death, including having nude photos passed around at a company holiday party, the complaint says. Let's see that there was at least one more thing. I'm trying to skim this so we don't just uh, the agency alleges male employees play video games during the workday whilst delegating responsibilities to female employees, engage in sexual banter, and joke openly about rape, among other things. And I think there's a couple other things in here, but I'm not going to read the whole this. So yeah, they're getting sued, and yikes, syndereN. That's a huge yikes. Thoughts?
I mean, do we need to say anything really?
I don't know.
I feel like my face says it all, right? For all the audio listeners.
Yeah, thank you to the audio listeners who have
Dude,
complained
I
incessantly.
I don't know. I mean, obviously it's at the allegation stage here, right? But it's hard to believe that when it gets elevated to this level that there isn't even an ounce of truth to it, right? I mean, all
Yeah,
I
when
can
it
say is that
comes
I hope not
to
all of this is true, or that like that it's blown up to be something it's not. But most likely, all of this probably is true, and that's fucking disgusting.
yep. So
Um, and not only
I
is it disgusting, it's also fucking sad. Like if it's true, right? It's one thing that you're like, holy shit, this behavior is like unbelievable, but it's also fucking sad that it's happening to this level still, even with all the attention that's being brought to this shit. That it feels like more. It almost feels to me like more stories come up than success stories at this point, which makes sense because now that more attention is being brought to the issue, more people come forward with their problems, right? So it's a good thing. It's just sad that it's at this level. But having stories like this is important. So I think we just have to accept that, there's going to be a lot of stories like this that you will read about, and hopefully it will be less over time. But for now, it's probably going to be more because that's just the fucking world right now.
yeah, and apparently this
Um,
investigation by the state agency, California, has been going on for 2 years already. So this sounds like
Jesus
it's
fucking Christ.
yeah, finally coming to a head. And
Well,
I
it's no secret all the good ones from Blizzard moved on. So
yeah, that's true actually. Um
all the real ones.
and when was it? It was a year or two ago Riot had a similar thing come out, and it's just crazy that it can be something so public. It's like work culture. Like, what's the best way to? Like, it's not like one of these private moments where, obviously, God, what is the right way to say this? Even it's something that the entire company, like the culture of the work, right? You come in, you're a new
Right.
employee. It's very evident what the work culture is. Like everybody's gonna have a different work culture. If it's like this, like how is that possible? Actually, like how is that literally possible? So I guess it's just the higher ups are kind of okay with it.
And
But
how does 20% of the workforce, how is 20% of it made up after of female employees if this is how the culture is?
maybe that's
Like
why
that's
it's
fucking
low.
crazy, right?
Maybe they quit.
It's high. Like 20% is high if this is the work culture.
Hmm.
Like that's
Yeah.
fucking crazy, right? That if all of this is true, like there's so many ifs and ifs and ifs, right? But it's like maybe the pay is really good so people put up with this shit, but I feel like I imagine being put in that position I feel like you get the fuck out of there, right?
In
If this is
theory,
going on, like,
you never know
this.
though.
But I mean, I know it's not that simple because like you might need the money, you might need to make ends meet, etc., etc. So it's not just like, oh, I'll just find another job, no problem, right? Um, I know it's not that simple, but holy shit, 20%
Yeah.
in a culture like this.
So we'll
And
see what
also the fact
happens.
that they aren't like, it's not just how am I going to work this properly? It's crazy that if this kind of culture can thrive in a workplace where 20% are women, right?
Mm.
Because let's say it was 2% women or whatever, then you could say, okay, there's like such an insane majority that it can become this kind of frat culture. I'm not defending it in any way, by the way. It shouldn't happen ever, regardless. Even if there was 0 women, it shouldn't happen anyway. But like when it's this large of a fraction of the company, it's
Mm.
crazy that this kind of thing can even exist. Like, how big of a part of your company are you just disrespecting? Like, this is, I don't know, it's fucking
Yeah,
ridiculous.
it's
Well,
pretty crazy. So we will
oh,
see what happens with that.
let's move on.
This type of stuff typically will be very long term, I would imagine. But you never know. So yeah, that was kind of a bombshell.
Yeah.
All right, and then final topic. Blue Origin successfully sends Jeff Bezos and 3 others to space and back. So he pulls a
Congrats.
whatever that guy that we talked about last week's name. What the hell? Richard Branson, is that right? So they just go to the edge of space or the edge of the earth if you want to call it that, and they come back. So it's actually a quick trip, just like what was it, like 10 minutes or something, whatever it is. It was pretty.
Mm-hmm.
So he technically made it to space, and obviously he's a billionaire. If you guys don't know that, he's the richest person in the entire world. He might be the richest person in the history of the world, actually. And he got criticized a bit for a quote he made. They call it tone deaf, where he was thanking a lot of people afterwards. And he thanks Amazon employees and customers for paying for this or some shit like that, which is God, like how fucked
Uh,
up do you have to be to say that? It's just like his joyride essentially, and he's thanking, like especially considering all the history with Amazon employees getting not not nearly as much as they deserve, and then him profiting off of the pandemic and all this bullshit, right?
Thanks, guys, for paying for my spacecraft trip.
Yeah, and then the most hilarious part about it, and I'm not gonna show it on the video. You guys can just Google this. Have you seen what the rocket looked like, syndereN?
I have.
It literally looks like a penis. And people started posting some things in comparison to Austin Powers, where Dr. Evil, who ironically looks exactly like Jeff Bezos, also had a penis shaped rocket. Unbelievable. It literally looks like a fucking penis. That's insane. How does that happen? Is it just, are our penises like, do they work really well in space or something?
Thanks to all the Amazon workers for paying for my space dick.
Like, that is the ultimate
Could you at least have
egotistical
doubled
move.
down and said it like that? Like that would have at least been funny then.
Now, I will say, like, based on the picture I'm looking at, the testicles are quite small in comparison
Hmm,
to the penis.
that's
So
true.
that might be a condition that he needs to look up. But what are your thoughts on this entire thing?
Honestly, kind of indifferent. I
What
mean,
do you think
apart
of the
from his
penis?
statement, which is tone deaf, but like,
Do you like
yeah,
the penis?
okay, someone went into space. Yeah, I mean, it's a really great dick, honestly. Super happy for Bezos. He finally gets to not only be a dick on Earth, but also be a dick in space now. That's great. Um, yeah, congratulations.
All right. Well, that God, we had a lot of topics that were not Dota, but so much happened this week. It's crazy. But thank you for sticking with us. Yeah, that's the end of the episode. SUNSfan and syndereN signing out. Thank you again to esports.gg for sponsoring this episode. Guys, check out the link in the description of the video or audio to help us out. And, well, it's not just helping us out. You get to experience great Arcana tier list content where we are
Mm-hmm.
the experts. Remember, we're the
We
experts
know
on everything.
everything.
That's right. All right, until next time, syndereN and syndereN signing out. Goodbye.
Bye.
We say things that don't mean anything, but thanks for listening. Yeah.